Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. Happy Monday. We got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's give you the latest coming out of Jacksonville, Florida, where that racist attack took place where 3 black people were killed by a white gunman who essentially killed himself in the process. We'll talk about the latest coming from that community. Also, today is the day 60 years ago on August 28th, 1963, thousands of people gathered to convene on the mall in Washington, D.C. under the banner of jobs and freedom. And so it was out of that great speech that I Have a Dream have come out. We're asking the question 60 years later, are we further along? As we check in and talk a little bit about this weekend's celebration that said it wasn't a commemoration, but a continuation of the demands. We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, we got your health and wellness segment with Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget, MD. So stay with us. We got a lot to talk about in today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Monday. What an historic day it is, folks. Today is 60 years of since the Great March on Washington, led by A. Philip Randolph and many other organizers. And it was on that day, 60 years ago, that we heard the infamous I Have a Dream speech given by the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit, but it is certainly a historic day. Now, before we get into that, let's talk about what's happening in real time here in right now in 2023, folks, and that even though it has been 60 years since there has been a call for some level of peace and integration and reconciliation, we're still finding that America is having a real problem and more importantly, trying to get citizens to see the value of one another. And I'm looking at the situation down in Jacksonville, Florida, folks, where 3 black people were shot in a dollar store, in a dollar store down there in Jacksonville. And it has sent a huge shockwaves throughout the city and the community of Jacksonville, Florida, folks. Let me share with you the latest around this situation as Jacksonville continues to grapple, according to the reports, with legacy of racism after the shooting. The big question is, why do they hate us so much? And this was a question that was posed by a 21-year-old. This is an NBC News. This was a question that was posed by a 21-year-old by the name of Jaheim Johnson. He's a poet, and he talks about the 3 victims that were killed in that shooting: Angela Michelle Carr, who's 52, Arnault Joseph A.J. Laguerre Jr., who was 19, and Gerald Deshaun Gallion, who was 29. Who were all shot and killed by the shooter Ryan Palmeter, who put on his tactical vest before he went on a quote unquote murderous rampage at the Dollar General store, just a few blocks from the HBCU down there, the HBCU Edward Waters University. So just want to share with you a little bit about what's been happening. And Keenan, if we can, and we've been streaming this this press conference and some of the latest news from that. I wanted to share with you what was said at yesterday's press conference as community members and civic leaders and police and other officials gathered together to talk about this tragedy. Take a look. We're pulling that in from, we're going to pull up that today. Folks, I want you to join me in the conversation as we invite you to discuss with us as we do each and every time we are on air. Join us in the culture as part of the culture crew. Join us in the chat. We are streaming live on YouTube right now under Roland Martin. You can find us on Facebook as well. We're also streaming live, of course, on blackstarnetwork.com, on Amazon News, on your Fire TV, and on Plex TV. All you can find is there, all at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But let's jump in. I want to get some takes from you, crew, because I see so many of you are checking in. Big shout out to my culture crew. Happy Monday, Robin. I see you, Robin Welch, Damon, Brother Damon. Thank you, Bozer Blix. Thank you for checking in. Mike V, Brian Christensen, La Kelly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. McCole. Hey, Sister McCole, good to see you. Good to check in with you, my man. Conscious Thought. Thank you so much, bro. Sister Karen Connor, thank you so much. Happy Monday to you, Sister Karen. Pauline Hurt, thank you for checking in as well. Mike V, I see you. Smooth J, I see you. Anastasia Paget, I see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all checking in. Let's get some take from you very quickly, crew, on what the situation is down in Jacksonville, Florida, and tensions are high down there, especially around the situation. They're also expecting to get hit by some natural disaster. They're talking about another major hurricane hitting that area of Florida. So Florida is under some great trials right now. But like Kelly, you checked in and said elected officials need to be held accountable and be charged for initiating this attack on Black people. Some people went as far as to say, like Kelly, that Ron DeSantis is the one to blame in this situation. I'm not sure if that's who you meant, but I can understand it. Even if he didn't, quote unquote, tell folks to pull the trigger, he can create the environment, create the culture down there where the lives of Black people, the lives of LGBTQ, the lives of anybody outside of white people may be threatened. So I appreciate you, LaKelly, for checking in on that. Real Brooklyn, you checked in. Good to connect with you again, bro. You said, hello, crew. Another day, another month, and another year of hate we see and deal with. This world needs the big man to return and correct this madness. Talking about Jesus. I hear that. Definitely. I hear that, bro. Trust me, believe me. I'm tired of hearing about it. And it's very, very unfortunate. And our hearts and prayers go out to the families of those 3 victims. Like Kelly, you said, yes, sir. That's what I meant talking about Ron DeSantis. Yeah. Creating the environment for this type of thing to take place. Let me see if we can just play for you just a little bit about what was said, some of the latest coming out of Jacksonville, Florida. Take a look, folks.
How this has affected us as a city. This is not about partisan politics. This is about human lives. This is about our community. I look across this expansive place here, and I see people from every community, from every walk of life in this city. My day started off really, really good yesterday. I did the east side, a walk on the east side, historic east side. We got to meet a lot of wonderful, wonderful people. But my day was shattered at about 12:45 yesterday afternoon, 1 o'clock, when I heard what was taking place down in Newtown. Me too. I spent 32 years in this career, and I've seen some horrible, horrible things. But not much rivals what I saw yesterday. And I'm here to tell you that your Jacksonville Sheriff's Office will keep you informed. Your Jacksonville Sheriff's Office will not stand for injustice. Your Jacksonville Sheriff's Office will let you know exactly what's going on in your community, no matter how hard it is to hear. And I promise you that we'll take everything that we have, all the sweat, all the blood, all the tears, all the hard work, to make sure that every member of this community is safe. I love Jacksonville. I love the people of Jacksonville. And it doesn't matter where you're from, where you are, how you are, your socioeconomic state. I care about every member of this community. I thank you for allowing me to serve you. And I can make you this promise. I can make you this promise that I will not rest until I can make sure everyone in this city can live peacefully and safely and thrive in this wonderful city that we have. And I told some folks just today when I was talking to them, I said, this does not define Jacksonville, Florida. This is not who Jacksonville, Florida is. Jacksonville, Florida is a wonderful place full of wonderful people. And one evil man who decided to take his hateful rhetoric and his hateful thoughts and put those into action, they cannot shake our resolve. and we will not allow it to do so. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you for allowing me to represent you, and I promise you that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure Jacksonville is the place that it has been and that it will continue to be. Thank you.
Okay.
The following persons we're going to ask to come forward. These are pastors of our churches in the community. And as I call your name, we're going to ask you to please come and line up this way. And the first is going to be Dr. Teresa White, the Heritage Christian Center. Next would be Imam Yaga Abdullah from Al Islam Worldwide Ministry. Yeah, and she's first. There you go. Pastor Barrier from Simpson Memorial United Methodist Church. Pastor Steve Wilson from Divine Missionary Baptist Church. Pastor Don Johnson, the House of Prayer. Apostle Dawson, True Church of Living God. Bishop John Gunn, St. Paul Church. Pastor Jeffrey Rumblin, Day Spring Church. Pastor Lee Harris, Mount Olive Primitive Church. Dr. Mark Griffin, Wayman Ministry. We're asking you to pray and not preach. Amen. Let the church say amen. So we're asking that you pray, obviously, from your heart. We would like for you to keep it to 2 minutes. Pray for that.
Put my timer there. Let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank and praise you, give you the glory and the honor. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to come together in unity. We thank you now.
That was just a little bit, folks, of what happened yesterday as the community and as you saw the sheriff there in Jacksonville gathered together to kind of give an update and, more importantly, to keep the faith high in the city of Jacksonville. That was Sheriff T.K. Williams who first spoke, and some of you from the crew, y'all checked in and said that you appreciate the sheriff. Lana, you checked in and you talked about how you appreciate Sheriff T.K. Waters, for being a real, you said, I appreciate the sheriff for standing up and being a real black man, standing up for black people. Well, you heard the sheriff said that he will not rest until justice is served in this tragedy of the shooting and killing of three of our people and our community members. But the sheriff also said something else, because there was some discrepancy, and then we're going to take a quick pause after I make this note. There was some discrepancy about when or how did the shooting occur, what was the timeline of things. And the sheriff made it clear. He said that it looks to him that he went to Edward Waters University campus on Sunday night to change into whatever he needed to change into. He had the opportunity to do violence at EWU. He did not. There were people very close, in very close proximity. He did not do anything there. He backed out and he left. And then that's when he went down the street to the Dollar General and committed that murderous rampage. So, there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of concern about the safety of that HBCU right now in Jacksonville, students and whatnot, staff members and personnel. There's a lot of concern about the safety of Black students in the area. But Sheriff T.K. Waters seems to show some level of passion and in a sense that, his department is going to bring some justice to the people. La Kelly, you checked in and said, I'm tired of praying. It's time for accountability in Jesus' name. I hear that. Anastasia, you said, we understand how you feel. I'm sure it's okay. You are just speaking your mind in God and all to pray for these family members. Absolutely. Absolutely. Conscious thought, you checked in, brother. You said nothing will change until we do something about it. No thoughts and prayers, no consolations, no solemnity, no acquiesce. We need to act up and act out. Act up and act out, huh? Conscious thought. I hear you. Carolyn Harrison, you checked in. Thank you for checking in, Conscious Thought. Carolyn, you said, I'm praying for all the good people in Florida. Absolutely. Robin Welch, my sister. Thank you, Carolyn. You said there's a gunman near the North Carolina campus right now. We're going to have to keep our eyes on that, Robin. So thank you for bringing us up to speed on that situation down there. That sounds like it's going to develop in situation, hopefully down in North Carolina. We don't see any fatalities from there. Karen, you said we are devastated again. The victims were executed. These attacks against us, our culture, and our history are a result of the hateful rhetoric against us. Domestic terrorism must be dealt with. Amen. Amen. I appreciate y'all, crew, for posting and sharing your thoughts about this. Of course, we're going to keep you posted on all of the latest happenings. Of course, tune in to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Tune into Black Star, because there's no other place that you want to get this full, unadulterated, unfiltered look at what's going on down in Jacksonville. And let's have some deeper conversations. We're going to, as the days progress, getting more deeper conversations about how we can be a part of the solution and not just stating the problem. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit about coming from that situation. That situation down in Jacksonville really is a sign that we still got a lot of work to do. Even though 60 years later, we have made some progress, we have made some gains. 60 years after the Great March on Washington of August 28th, 1963, it still shows, crew, that we still got a lot of work to be done. Racism has not died. White supremacy is not out of business. Black folks are still feeling the brunt of oppression and tyranny and injustice. We got a lot of work to be done. We're going to talk about the 60-year anniversary of the Great March on Washington, what happened in Washington, D.C. But most importantly, what's the next step? The convening, the gathering is one thing. The day after is a different program. We're going to have that conversation with you and our very special guest on the other side, Mr. Jason Dunn. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
I thank you for being the
voice of Black America rolling.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We want to switch gears just a tad bit because we know we started off the show kind of giving you some of just the latest remarks coming out of Jacksonville, Florida, from Sheriff T.K. Waters and others. But more importantly, thinking about this in the larger scheme, the larger landscape of where we are, that as much as this situation has kicked off, that happened over the weekend in Jacksonville, Florida, it just goes to show you that America is still far off from where Dr. King talked about in his great I Have a Dream speech. And that speech was given today, folks, 60 years ago on August 28th, 1963. And so Reverend Al Sharpton, the King family, the Think Institute, and many 100 other organizations partnered over the weekend to convene in Washington, D.C., not to just gather and talk about and to celebrate, quote unquote, or to commemorate. But the theme this year was not a commemoration, but a continuation. And so they are still putting forth the demands that we have been screaming about for the past 60 years that we have yet to see being fulfilled by the federal government and by state governments around the country. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about the impact of this. And I'm so happy to have my very special guest. He serves as the president of the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals. We welcome him to the airwaves of the Black Star Network here on The Culture. Brother Jason Dunn. Brother Jason, thank you so much for checking in. How you feeling this afternoon?
All is well, and thank you for having me on, and forgive the car interview, man. I just landed, a little delayed, so I'm back of a car.
It's
right
good. Hey, man. Hey, this is Black Star. We get you where we can take you, brother. So I'm cool with that. If you watch Roland Martin, and you know how he rolls.
Yeah, I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke,
man, you won't get no smoke.
No smoke.
No smoke at all, brother Jason. First and foremost, thank you so much for being with us today. Let me ask you this, brother Jason. From what we're seeing in this, and I know, it's all connected. We're talking about the 60 years of the Great March on Washington, but then on the same weekend, another racially motivated attack in Jacksonville, Florida. A couple of weeks ago, we saw what happened down in Montgomery, right? So there was a high among Black people in America saying, "Oh, we're fighting back, And my brother Brebre, he checked in, he said, "Man, all this talk about the white chair," he said, "it got real silly and goofy." Because we talking about, oh yeah, now we got this white chair, now we going to fight back. And then boom, a couple of weeks later, a white murderer walks into a store, guns down 3, and kills himself in the process. And now we're back into praying, crying, and wishing and hoping. So brother Jason, help us make sense of just the ebbs and flows of our plight here in this country, especially as it relates to the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. Do you feel like we've gotten further along here?
Well, I think in some ways the answer is yes, we've gotten further along, but in other ways, I think we've been stagnant. In the other ways, we've been pulled back. I think it goes to the conflict of the conscience of our people as a whole. We are here in this country. We didn't necessarily voluntarily come here, but we're here now. And we're moving forward. And yes, I think the remembrance of the march says that don't forget, just because we can go into a hotel that's not owned by Black people, it's still America. Just because we can go into a school with white folks, it's still America. Just because we can sit in back at the airport or to the bus and choose where we can sit in the front or the back, or we have the choice to integrate, is still America. And so I think we all have to kind of center ourselves and just remember where we came from, where we are, where we want to go, and to unite, and those who want to be with us, to walk with us, to move with us, and to be real strategy and have metrics, not just screaming and praying and kneeling down, but there's some strategy behind organizations who are actually working. So how do we make sure we meet those metrics? Whom should be at the table, and how do we properly resource them to ensure that we can achieve those goals? And I think that most and some organizations are focused on that, but in other times our resilience has allowed us to step back up. And all this is a blow for us this weekend, that we still move forward and have been since we've been on this land.
Brother Jason, some folks would say that we did not need to have another march like what we saw with Reverend Al Sharpton and the King family, that we did not need to do this. And other folks are saying it is necessary. Where do you stand on that?
You know, I think it's always good to remember your history. I think one who does not know the history is susceptible to it happening again. And so, you know, I understand why people say that. I also understand why folks agree that we should have the march. But I also know that as long as we're doing something, as long as there's action around it, and it reminds us of why it was important, I believe that is necessary. I also think that organizations who were founded after the march have to be holding to the mission. Many of us are flying on borrowed wings of past organizations or our leaders, and not really fulfilling the promise or the brand commitment that those organizations were founded to do. And that's one thing that Coalition of Black Media Professionals is focused on, is fulfilling the brand promise of equity, equality, and making sure that there's everybody's working together as it relates to Black and brown persons in hospitality organizations.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because there's a school of thought, Brother Jason, where some people think that the liberation of Black America comes from policy. There's some folks that say, look, it comes from direct action in terms of organizing. And I think there's a value in all of these strategies, all of these different ways to kind of get to the eventual goal. But there seems to be some walls present. And I know in the work that you're doing, as you're building the voices up of Black folks getting into the C-suite, breaking some of those barriers, what would you recommend as being some of the key things that we need to focus on at this point? Is it policy? Is it position placement? Is it education? Like what's going to, what path, or is there any one path that's going to bring that type of extra urgency of considering the time?
I think it's all the above. It's the inside-outside game. I understand why the march was happening. There were people inside of the president's office asking for policy change. While the policy change discussions were happening, people were outside throwing bricks and rocks. While people were throwing bricks and rocks, there were folks organizing in their churches. While people were in their churches, there were folks organizing on college campuses. So I think it's all the above. But the difference is that we all have to have some type of position to move forward. And that's where we've lost right now. The wall is that, not that we can't achieve it, is that we have to be on the same page and have metrics to decide what those are. And I believe that's one of the things that Coalition has done for the past 40 years in focusing on that and showing that we lead with data. Here's the level of interest from Black tourists in different cities. Here's our spend that and how it affects empowerment of people, local and national. And then here's the policies that can impact the economy if you support tourism, particularly those of the Black conventions and Black groups. And so I think those type of kind of conversations can help us. Those discussions have to happen here and now, and it can't be this one or it has to be both, all.
Look, I got to take a quick pause, Brother Jason, but when we come forward, I'd like to have more conversations with you as we talk about the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, but more importantly, and I'm going to use the theme, the continuation. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How do we make sure that the demands that were asked 60 years ago are actually fulfilled and become a reality in 2023? Folks, I want you to join me in this conversation. Be checking in with Brother Jason Dunn, who serves as the president of the organization, the National Coalition of Black Media Professionals, who are looking to take the voices of Black folks up, especially in the hospitality industry. And we continue the conversation on the other side. Crew check-in. We're streaming live on YouTube on the Roland Martin's YouTube page. We're streaming live on Facebook, on Plex TV, Amazon News, and of course, our homepage of Black Star Network. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We've been checking in, folks, and talking to Brother Jason Dunn, who serves as the president of the National Council of Black Meeting Professionals. And this is an organization that is doing its work to make sure that specifically that there's economic and professional advancement of Black executives within the C-suites. It's also working on the disproportionate wage gap for Black women in comparison to their peers, and overall working in the space of equity and inclusivity. Brother Jason, you've been sharing just your thoughts on this, looking at 60 years later. So you said this earlier, that we've made some gains, we've been stagnant in some places, and then we've been pulled back in places. So I think that's a very accurate assessment, right? It hasn't been completely bad and hasn't been completely all good. It's been some ebbs and flows in this. Here's something that the president, he wrote this op-ed today, Brother Jason, for the Washington Post. And in this op-ed, he touted all of the things that his administration, along with Vice President Kamala Harris, did. But he wrote this op-ed, and I just want to lift a portion of this out and then get your thoughts on this. He said, quote, "To date, we have invested more than $7 billion in HBCUs to prepare students for high growth industries. We've approved more than $116 billion in student loan debt cancellation for 3.4 million Americans so that borrowers receive the relief they deserve. And a new student debt repayment plan is helping Black students and families cut in half their total lifetime payments per dollar borrowed. We're doing all of this by making sure the biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share, keeping my commitment that Americans earning less than $400,000 a year not pay a single penny more in federal taxes. And to help guide these policies, I made it a priority to appoint Black leaders to my cabinet, my staff, and the judiciary, and to key positions in agencies such as the Federal Reserve to ensure policymakers represent the experiences of all Americans in the economy. The president also, Brother Jason, was scheduled to meet with Black leaders from this past weekend's 60th anniversary commemoration. Reverend Al Sharpton, the King family, and others today at the White House as a marking of this historic day. Do you think that this president, this administration is making the strides needed to bring some of those demands into fulfillment that happened 60 years ago and even up to this present moment? You think that they're doing what is needed?
I think the president is doing what he can at this point. I know there's some barriers with the Senate and some of the House as well, and that takes us to vote in people who align with those sentiments from the president. And so it is my opinion that, you know, he has brought those things to the forefront. He has brought those things to, frankly, to the people who can make decisions and those whom can put policy down so it impacts all communities directly, locally, nationally, and regionally. And so, you know, again, can he do more? Absolutely. Can the Senate and the House do more? Absolutely. But at some point in this particular age that we have within this political era, there are a lot of people who don't want to see advancement, a lot of folks who don't want to see that. And so our organization specifically is focused on what you just stated, uplifting and supporting policies that impact our economy, particularly around people who are Black and brown in hospitality, and securing those roles in the C-suite and educating those folks, prepare them to have a career within our organization. So, you know, I agree with what he's saying. Can he do more? Yes. Is there some barriers? The barriers are getting it through the House and the Senate. And those also barriers are ensuring that those whom he is speaking about, which are you and I and others who are affiliated with us, have the motivation to get out and vote to ensure that these policies come to play in 2024 and forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to get some thoughts from our online culture crew, Brother Jason, because folks are checking in from around the country. Tiana, you said we must prepare ourselves for whatever may come. I'm a strong believer in always being prepared. Do you feel, and this is an interesting point, and Tiana, I appreciate you for posting that. Brother Jason, I feel like as much as we talk about the struggle, the movement, liberation, it still seems like, to Tiana's point, when we look at these moments, whether it's the commemoration, whether what's happened in Jacksonville, whether what's happened in Montgomery, whatever the case may be, that it sort of kind of comes off as though we didn't know, that we're not prepared for these things, right? And, you know, when we were talking about the 60th anniversary of the march, it seemed like our people were more prepared. There was always strategy. There was always planning. There was not just the reliance on one tactic to get to the eventual goal. How do we change that? How do we either get back to that place, or more importantly, you know, making sure that the next generation, whoever is going to pick up the torch here, get to that place that we understand the importance of planning and being prepared?
I'm glad you asked that question. My daughter, who attends Spelman, we had a discussion about that last week, and the discussion simply is this: we have to care, first of all, and realize that what we are experiencing, people fought for us to do that, right? And so we can't take it for granted. I think secondly, we have to strengthen the churches, strengthen the organizations who have led these things for a long time. We're having a discussion September 21st in Washington, D.C., the Congressional Black Caucus with Derek Johnson from the NACP, to talk about the intersections of Black culture and hospitality, particularly on when organizations have poured out of cities who are blue cities and red states to show or demonstrate that their lack of support for the policies in those individual states. I think second, we have to be courageous, meaning that we have to stand up. We have to we have to put folks in actual office whom align with a policy in which we selected. We have to support our own, what it means to Black businesses, which empowers our local communities and gives us something to stand for as independent and not dependent on other things that may influence our decisions or take our livelihoods away. And I think lastly, those organizations that are actually out here, whether you agree with them or not, to maximize their platforms, get involved, and have a sense of conscience and alignment with that, and don't be misled that what you're going through right now in 2023 is some type of utopia. This can be taken away from us just that quick. Just that quick, if we're not paying attention and involving ourselves and engaging ourselves. And our organization is focused on that. Like I said, we meet in September 21st in D.C., the Congressional Black Caucus at the Dr. Martin Luther King Library at 8 o'clock a.m. ncbnp.org is the website. ncbnp.com, sorry. ncbnp.com. And our conference is in Atlanta, Georgia, December 6th to the 9th, where we focus on just the things you're talking about now. How to get engaged, how to empower, how to support, and then build a foundation to ensure we sustain the lifestyle of which we think is fair and equal.
Brother Jason, how do we make sure that like the work that you're doing with the National Council of Black Media Professionals, that your organization and other organizations, we get out of the rut or out of that space of incrementalism? And this is something that one of my crew members, Benny Hill, talks about incrementalism at its finest. Like, I guess he was responding to just some of the things the president was doing around HBCUs. But this seems to be a constant thing, right? That you do have some school of thought among our people who want to see drastic change at a very quick rate. And then some of school of thought among our people is like, change take time. Justice doesn't roll down the hill very fast. All of these things, this level of incrementalism. How do you reconcile between those two, rhythms of the movement?
Again, I think it's internal, external game. I think again, I think you got to go back to the wisdom of the elders. The elders have been here, have done that. The youth have the strength and the courage and the power to do it. And I think if we're against each other, we're not going to move forward. And so again, yes, there is some there's something to say about the way the governance work, and it is slow oftentimes, and sometimes it's fast, depending upon the people organizing and shaking the tree. And so in my mind, I think it has to be a combination of both. We have to understand it's going to be patient, but also we got to force the conversation. And that comes with us, again, unifying with all of our organizations, individual folks getting out, knocking on doors, asking folk have they voted, getting involved back in the churches and the faith institutions to ensure that they're holding to their brand promise, and joining organizations from the inside out, pushing them and pushing their brand to remember why they were created, what they're going, and how they're going to focus on sustaining the culture of which we so proudly stand for.
There it is. Brother Jason Dunn, I truly appreciate your time with us this afternoon, dear brother. Thank you for joining us. Folks, again, Brother Jason, what's the website for folks to get more information about the work you're doing with Black media professionals?
ncbmp.com. ncbmp.com. I thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you, Brother Jason. Thank you so much for checking in. And once again, doing the great work of it being so good for the culture, folks. That's the website right there, ncbmp.com. You can go onto their website. This is the National Council of Black Media Professionals. They're having their conferences in Atlanta and D.C. They're going to be talking about economic advancement. They're going to be talking about, taking professionals in the hospitality interest to the next level. They're going to be talking about closing the wage gap that exists between Black women and the rest of the world in the marketplace. So many things that they're doing on the ground as one of many voices, right, to help bring the demands that we saw 60 years ago that was brought to America, making those demands real, and most importantly, holding those who are responsible accountable for keeping their eyes on the ball. So again, Brother Jason Dunn and the National Council of Black Media Professionals, we appreciate and love the work that you're doing, and we look forward to reconnecting with you soon.
Brother Muhammad, we also invite you to come to the conference too, man. So let me know. We can send you an invite. We'd love to host you to make sure you're a part of the organization.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Right. Well, let's definitely do that. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, be cool.
All right, brother. Yes, sir. You too. Peace. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause, folks. When we come forward, let's check in with our physician, our doctor, Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week, Reclaim Your Wellness, folks. But make sure y'all keep the conversation going about the 60th anniversary of we're going to say the Million Man March, but the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. That Million Man March is in October, so we'll talk about that later. But the March on Washington, folks, definitely let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep the conversation going about Jacksonville. Let's keep the conversation going about the president and Reverend Al Sharpton and all of these discussions. Because guess what? We have to find some consensus about what's the next step. So that's the big thing about these major demonstrations. And y'all remember last week, the demonstration plays a role. It gets people excited. It makes people aware. But the real work starts on Monday, starts today. So we'll have that conversation. Let's keep the conversation going on the other side. But folks, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. We're going to check in with Dr. Bridget MD for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, a fantastic first hour as we kind of brought you up to speed on the latest coming out of Jacksonville, where they had that racist shooting of where 3 black people were shot and killed by a white gunman over the weekend, and how the city of Jacksonville, the black folks in Jacksonville are dealing with this latest tragedy, and in some very unfortunate, to say the least, how this situation has turned out, considering the fact that this is also the weekend and today is the day of the 60-year anniversary of the March on Washington. A lot of work still needs to be done in this country, especially when it comes to race relations. And so our hearts and prayers and certainly our condolences go out to the families that have been affected and to the community in the city of Jacksonville. And we want you to join us in that first, take a look at the first conversation as we talk to Brother Jason Dunn of the National Council of Black Media Professionals, work that they're doing to increase some level of empowerment for Black folks in the hospitality industry, and more importantly, being one of the many, many partners to try to bring those demands that we saw 60 years ago at the March on Washington in 1963, making them real in 2023. So if you missed out on the first hour, definitely check it out. But folks, we are streaming live on blackstarnetwork.com. We're streaming live on Amazon News on your Fire TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're streaming live on Plex TV 24 hours, 7 days a week. We're streaming live on Facebook and on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. And that's where you can join us as part of the Culture Crew today. And our online chat is legendary, folks, absolutely legendary. Folks are checking in from around the country and even certain parts of the globe to be a part of the discussions, and you can do that too as well. All right, folks, let's jump into another frame of mind here. Every Monday, we check in with our doctor to give us some tips on how we can get through the week, things that we need to think about. So let's get ready to get another dose, another prescription from Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment. Dr. Bridget, peace and blessings. Good afternoon. How you feeling, Doc? We got Dr. Bridget with us. Let's see if we can get her in here. Let's see. She's not here yet. We're going to get her in. All right, let me just take some while we let me just get her into this thing very quickly. Let me take some let me take a quick pause. We're going to get our doctor in very quickly. Stay with us, folks. We're tuned into the culture here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you go into a barbershop in a 700 credit score neighborhood, black or white, they're talking about their ideas and they're talking about how they're going to move on those things. You go to a barbershop at a 500 credit score, equal brilliance, but bad culture, they're talking about other people. You go to a winner's barbershop, here's what I'm doing. You go to the barbershop of where people feel defeated, they're talking about other people, either celebrities or people they admire, but also often, I don't like Joe. I don't like Roland Martin. Let me tell you something. I don't understand people. How could you not like anything here you see? You should just be like, this is amazing. It's cool. You may not even like how he does it or how I do it, but it's like, you know what? They're succeeding. They're killing it. All you should be is, that's fantastic. But if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, it's hard for me to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And here's the big one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm going to make your life a living hell.
All right, welcome back to the show.
Happy Monday, Farajii. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Dr. Bridget. Okay, that was my fault. That was my fault. So I will say, this is the beauty of live streaming sometimes, when you just move it around and you know what? Maybe I did not actually invite my sister to come onto the show.
Yes.
I need to send her a link.
No, I was chatting with the crew, so that's not a bad thing. You know, seeing the
Yeah. The Pastor David was like, "Hey, man, send her the damn link."
It is what it is.
Happy Monday. All right, Dr. Bridget. Thank you, of course, for being here. First and foremost, I saw your pictures. You went to Beyonce's concert with your daughters.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
You kind of had a good time.
It was nice. It was
It
nice.
was okay. It was okay. I just saw a world-class entertainer. Nothing big, nothing major. Just left huge smiles on my daughter's faces. But am I not the coolest mom? I might be.
Well, I'll be able to use that for the rest of my life. Yeah, they look the wrong way. I'll say Beyonce, and then it's over.
You know, I think they have a medical term for that. That type of behavior, Doc. Is it manipulation, blackmail?
No, it's reminding.
Oh, okay.
Little, yeah, reminding you and the sacrifices you make. So, yeah.
All right, damn it. Look at
more. I'm glad they didn't post more. Oh my goodness.
Look at that. Hey, Keena, just give us the full shot of Dr. Bridget there, because we're gonna hey y'all, this is Dr. Bridget with her beautiful, there they are, beautiful daughters hanging out. They got nice seats. Y'all sitting on the floor. Is that the floor seats?
Yeah.
That is.
So my daughter turned 16 in March, and this is the only thing she wanted. So.
Well, sometimes it takes that way. It took a couple of months to get it just right. So I get it. I get it. I mean, like it is Beyonce. Did she enjoy herself?
Oh my God, she had a blast. I mean,
did Beyonce shout her out though? Because we know you got that type of pull. Did you? Did Blue Ivy shout her out?
No.
Did she do one of these?
I was kind of like, I've been seeing all this stuff about Blue Ivy. I was trying to figure out, how did I feel about it? Like, you have this 11-year-old on stage. In some ways, I'm like, keep it a family thing. In some ways, I'm like, it's her bedtime. She was amazing. It's so cute.
So
really.
She's a part of the show. That's it's just like she travels with mom. Yeah, and she's a part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and she's making $1 million while she's doing it. Why not?
And to make I know this is not what we came to talk about, but this is interesting. It's a great point. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful. They look awesome. Y'all look like amazing, just dynamic, group of young women here. Look at this. Look at this. They all smiles and stuff. So what do you make of a child being, working in that capacity, especially around so many adults in such a grueling situation like a tour?
I'm assuming that she's well protected, right? Because she does her spot. It's a little late, for an 11-year-old by the time she gets out there, but she does her spot, and then she goes backstage and she doesn't come out again. So and what was done while she was on stage was very well appropriate for a family show. Okay. So I get it. Like, I would want to travel with my kids too. I would want,
yeah, of course.
If they want to be a part of it, I would want them. I don't feel like she's overly put her child way too much out into the public. I think this is just what they do. I mean, I think her sister was dancing with them when she was 11 or 12 years old, when it was Destiny's Child. So I think it's normal for them.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, when your mother is Beyonce, it's like, and I truly don't think that Beyonce like pushed her into that space. I think she just naturally just like, hey, I want to do this. And it's like, her mother probably say, are you sure? Because it's a lot of work. This is, and so I know I'm sure that they have that conversation. And, I know that she's super well protected, but it is like, we're parents. So it's a beautiful thing to see your child kind of have the same interest as you. And I'm sure that if your daughters were saying, Mom, I want to be a doctor, you would be on the low. You'd be like, oh, you sure you don't want to do anything else? You gotta say it, Dr. Bridget. I know.
I've wanted, the point of what I've done and which I do enjoy is so that my children have freedoms that many times Black families don't have, to be totally honest. So I did a very structured pursuit in my career, though I've gotten a little unstructured over the years, but so that my children could have to have whatever whim kind of fit them, as long as they are dedicated, they are incredibly hardworking to a fault, And so my oldest daughter just started her second year in college in musical theater at a music conservatory.
That's awesome.
Right. And so that's not something that we often get that opportunity. You know, we have to make sure that we have a guarantee. And I have a very artistic family, but they all followed safe careers because we just don't have that liberty. So a goal of mine was so that she would have that liberty. And my youngest is still kind of up in the air with what she might want to do. She's an incredible artist, though. And so, you know, she has the ability to choose what will fit her instead of doing what she has to do. And that is a blessing and a gift.
I am, first and foremost, that's amazing. That's awesome. And I am the type of parent where, you know, let my children naturally gravitate to the thing that they want to do and love to do. Like, my son is into the whole filmmaking, YouTuber type of thing. So it's like he has a mind to build things. He's an engineer by nature, but then he also loves to create on camera.
Yes.
So it's like, do what you want to do. My daughter loves nature and flowers and animals, and she's our flower child. So it's like, do what you want to do. You know what I mean? So I think that there is some peace, but one of the things that you said, which I think is paramount, is that you work hard to give your children the freedom to discover what they want to do and who they want to be.
Yes.
And I think that's the ultimate goal for a lot of parents. Like, we, at the end of the day, we work the extra hours, we do the extra shifts, we work hard so that way our children don't have to be burdened with having to pick paths of convenience and really pick paths of passion.
But I don't, and I know
this is what you do to me on Mondays.
I know that's not even why we're here, but I do want to make
No.
a point. I don't think that we all have the same goal. Okay, that the idea that, you know, that we're sharing that we want our children to be able to do whatever their heart leads them to, and then knowing that they'll be successful. But I definitely know there are parents that groom their children to find the right mate. I know that there are parents that groom their child to follow only in their footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
There are parents that groom their child to go in, you know, to follow the money. And I would say that I have, even if it's not in their footsteps, right? And so I have not worked hard to give them everything. I have worked hard to give them freedom. That's
the difference.
There's a difference.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference, because if you work hard to give them freedom, then one, they understand the value of time. We all are given 24 hours, but it's how you use it that makes you successful.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like you're saying, that within that freedom comes some opportunities, comes some choices. You're not forcing them. That's a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to do that? And you know what? I think that our parents were trying to do that, but they got bogged down in some ways by the day-to-day life, the day-to-day responsibilities, right? And so that's what it is. That's what it is. But here's the thing, very quickly, I see this within Black culture.
Mm-hmm.
We burden our children with our burdens.
Yes.
Of adulthood.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I wanted the opportunity that my kids would not have to deal with my burdens to the best of my ability. You know, by no means perfect at any of this, but
right.
My goal was so that they would have freedom and independence. And a lot of times I see parents that want to control their child's outcome. You cannot control your child's outcome. You can instill in them what you believe, and then they end up choosing whether they take that on. Okay.
That's real. That's real.
But if you try to force it, they will run farther than you can ever imagine. So, so far so good. So far so good.
There it is right there. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's actually have the other conversation that we're supposed to have too.
Yes.
But that was by the Spirit right there. So I'm not even mad. That's about inspiration. So just a little something between two parents, folks, and y'all can continue the conversation on your own. But
yes.
When we come forward, Dr. Bridget's got to bring us up to speed on the possible return of COVID.
Yes. The
What?
guaranteed
return of COVID,
yes.
like with mask and distancing and don't touch me.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. All right, well, we'll talk about it. Let's get some details on the other side. Folks, stay with us. More conversation for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment with our very own Dr. Bridget, MD. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been checking in with our sister, Dr. Bridget, MD, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment that you can find here every Monday here on The Culture as we check in with the good doctor about a number of health and wellness related issues. And today, she's going to talk to us about COVID-19.
Yes. So I think there's this misconception that we went through this horrible situation in 2020 and going forward, but that it would just disappear. And without eradication, this is a virus much like smallpox and so many others that will stay with us unless we eradicate it. And we did not do that, partly because we did not do extensive vaccination. But so here we are again. There's been an uptick in the amount of COVID cases that are around. We're about a third down from where we were this time last year. However, we're definitely up 22% than we've been. And so with that being said, they suspect that as things cool down and we go into the fall and people start coming indoors a little bit, that it's going to rise even more. And so in saying that, there's been a lot of work and preparation for new vaccination and new options in this area. And I think it's an important conversation for us as Black people, because we were hit hard with COVID and with COVID deaths, that the only people that were hit harder than us were actually Native Hawaiians and Native Americans. Well, we were hit pretty hard with this. And so I think we need to take it seriously regarding vaccination and the fact that it may return.
So how serious, is there any particular state, Doc, that is taking this thing serious right now, as you can see, especially with school being back in session?
Right, absolutely. So things as things cool down, as the kids are getting back into school, I think, as a government overall, they're taking this very seriously. Right now, there are 12,600 Americans that are in the hospital right now for COVID.
Mm.
So,
And is this COVID, like, because I've heard over the past few months, and I mean, we talked about it briefly, those who are hit with long COVID, and then you have those who do have just the other, like, small, I would say shorter term COVID. Can you tell if these patients are suffering from which one?
So what they're finding just from the research over the last couple of years is that if you are reinfected, which you can be, that you're more likely to have a more severe case, where we often think that with reinfection, it might be lighter. So we don't want to ignore this going forward, particularly if people have comorbidities like obesity, lung disease, heart disease, that anything that's already also hitting your immune system, you don't want to ignore this. And I know we're not all vaccine people, and I respect people's choices in that manner. This is something that can be really sensitive for people. But I do want to at least make people aware that it's not over. People have this idea of there was before COVID and there's after COVID, and now we're really after COVID. COVID will be a part of us just like influenza. One of the vaccines that they have coming out right now is actually Novavax is a combination of the current, and every year the influenza vaccine changes, right, based on what they're seeing so that it can be more effective. So Novavax is actually a combination of the COVID vaccine with the new flu vaccine. And if you are someone that gets vaccinations, and I'm curious to see what people think about this, that it is something that you should take seriously and not ignore. As I said, 17% of those that were eligible for vaccinations last fall actually got them. So we did not really hit high numbers that could have led to eradication, which they were hoping initially in 2021. But, if you have kids, if you're indoors, if you're around a lot of people and if you're moving around a lot, you're going to want to take it seriously.
TC check-in said, Doc, right before election time. Because COVID, I get what TC is saying, because it becomes this politicized issue, right? I mean, we already know that. We kind of experienced that when Trump was in office and how that was handled. When Biden got into office, how it's been handled. So it has been a very political thing. Wearing masks has been political. Just even acknowledge that COVID exists has been political. So how do we make sense of this, especially when people are not as what's the word I'm looking for, Doc? People are not jumping up and down and trying to get the latest news and information about how to handle the situation, whether it's coming from the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, whether it's coming from their doctor. So how should you, what do you say to Black America that is like, okay.
I wish health issues were never a political issue. Unfortunately,
well, we want to leave America if that's the wish. Then,
I know that's that's just wishful thinking. If you look at pro-life and pro-choice, these are not political issues, but they are. Right. These are, the right for what rights does a woman have to her body, and as far as a baby or what have you. But so I wish this wasn't a political issue. If anything, I feel like it's people's health has been put into jeopardy due to politicians wanting to abuse or use this to their benefit. And so if at all possible, I like to remove the political aspect of this and really talk about a virus that has many variants, that has hit people in different ways, depending on age and comorbidities. And I could care less how it's political. That is not anything that I care to even deal with, because if you are abusing or using this so you can get elected or not, whatever it may be, then shame on you. This is a health situation, and we should all be on the same page with it.
Absolutely. Let me check in with the crew because folks are checking in about this. Janelle, my sister, you said COVID has never left, so it's definitely not following a political cycle. Widespread ambivalence will only harm our community because we get harder with all illnesses. Do you agree with that, Doc?
That we get.
She said because we get harder with all illnesses. That I guess, and I'm assuming that Janelle that you're saying that as time goes down, as time move forward, it's harder for us to kind of accept things and to get back into a space like with masks and social distancing when things have been so relaxed over these past, I would say for the past year. Would you agree with that?
But we're not going back to that, because if anything, that was the part that got really politicized, right? That are you aware now? If you are not getting a vaccine, or if you are, I do highly recommend if you've laxed off in your hand washing, it's time to, get back into it. If you are going to be in a very crowded space, you might want to wear a mask again, if you're one that likes to share food and drinks and cigarettes and blunts and maybe you don't need to be doing all that. Okay, because there's definitely going to be an uptick in the numbers and you're going to see that difference. So be mindful in taking care of yourself. Be mindful. I hate the concept of social distancing because I'm kind of a hugger myself and I believe we need human contact. But if you don't need to be in human contact with that person, then give yourself some social distance as well. We won't go back to people not being it would have to be something horrific to happen for us to get back to that space. But I think in the meantime, because basically when we went into that space, we had nothing to protect ourselves. Now, at least we do have vaccination as an option. And so if anything, I think there might be more and more mandates towards vaccination, depending on your job, which is, that was an issue for a lot of people. They could not go back to work unless they got vaccinated. Also, I think that, we had our little vaccination cards. I don't even know if that's going to really, for you to go in and out of different places, you had to show your card sometimes. I don't think that's really going to pick up again.
Right. Absolutely. So Janelle, you checked back in and said, Farajii, we get harder. It's just ridiculous how so many refuse to care about anyone but themselves.
You mean as people? Yeah, that we don't care about other people.
Yeah. Because that hasn't really changed. Like it changed a minute, right? Of course, there was more talk about it, but now that things have gotten more relaxed, Dr. Bridget, it seems like we're kind of back to that place. Like people felt like COVID was imposing on their personal freedom. And that just the simple fact that somebody else wants to protect themselves from this virus is an imposition on their personal existence, right? It's just kind of a weird situation that, we're talking about a major health crisis. And people took it personal, like somebody insulted them because they wearing a mask or they want to be socially distanced or they're choosing not to wear a mask. Like people took that as a personal insult.
They did.
And I'm like, how did it get to that place?
Yeah, I had patients that did not come back because we mandated masks in my office. It's a doctor's office, but they did not want to come back unless they couldn't, if they requested to not wear a mask at all. And if they were required to wear one, then they didn't come back. And somehow, that's what I'm saying, it got politicized. Something that shouldn't even be an issue became an issue. And honestly, I don't think I've seen Americans really care about each other since 9/11. Like that's when there was this overall community that crossed every boundary in a very, like something I've not seen, during my lifetime.
Absolutely.
So no, and I think with and I don't even know how I got into this conversation. This is not usually what I talk about, but since having a president like Trump that is very divisive, something really big will have to happen to bring us back together again. because he's caused so much damage. It will take a decade or more to fix that.
Damn. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with Dr. Bridget for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. Folks, I want to hear from you, crew. Share your thoughts as we're talking about the possible return of COVID, maybe not in the form that we were used to of the mask and the social distancing, but just the simple fact that guess what? People are still being hospitalized from the virus and how we can protect ourselves. Folks, the conversation continues on the other side right here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We are talking to Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, MD, who is talking to us about COVID-19. Not talking about a major big return to COVID-19 and all of the mask policies and social distancing, but just to let us know that guess what, folks? We are essentially living with COVID, and there are still thousands of people who are hospitalized who are suffering from the virus. And I want to bring back Dr. Bridget here as we talk about this, because it's like COVID, it becomes this dirty five-letter word, you know what I mean, in America, because it elicits such a strong response from politics to how we have a conversation about healthcare in this country, to racial disparities, because we know Black people were hit hard by COVID and all of these things. So it's very hard to talk about COVID in 2023. And then, you know, with the presidential election, I mean, all of this stuff. And it's crazy how this very little virus, Dr. Bridget, created this like
Life-changing, global changing.
It's like a crack storm of stuff to happen. Like it took America down for at least a year and a half.
Yeah.
It shut down the world for at least a good year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
you know
we
what I'm saying?
take this very seriously because, one of the comments here is, what if it gets to something that's not treatable? And for a moment there, we had nothing really, we didn't have any form of vaccination, right? That we were struggling to find any sort of medication that could help ease the symptoms. And it's very possible that we could get to a point of mutation or a different virus that would be essentially untreatable. And so we need to be mindful of how we manage things now, because we can control it. And it shouldn't be a political issue. It should be a wellness issue. And if you are concerned about making sure that your kids are healthy, if you're concerned about your job and being able to go every day, you're going to have to do some measures to make sure that your kids stay healthy as well as yourself.
Here's a question. Is it possible that COVID could mutate into something that's totally untraceable?
I don't know if COVID itself would do that. But keep in mind, I don't know if you've heard reports, COVID didn't come out of nowhere. It was globally, as there was an awareness that something could happen and that something on this level could happen prior to it coming into fruition. So there was awareness. The problem was there was a lack of preparation, and it became a part of a political dialogue as opposed to just being about the wellness. Every country didn't face it the way we did. Every country didn't fight back the way we did as Americans. If anything, we were kind of the laughing stock of the world, because while other countries saw this, as an opportunity to support each other and get healthy and do whatever it took to get rid of it, we thought this was something, it's not real and it's political and it's made up. And, it really made me lose faith in who we were as a people, as a country, because we were completely just working all in conspiracy theories and not even dealing with the reality that was in front of us, that people were dying. And so with this coming back, and like I said, there are 12,000 people in the hospital right now, that it's jumping up 22% in the recent week or so, that this is something that might, you might be confronted with again. I'll tell you, my cousins, husband and wife, have COVID right now. And they said that because I wanted to get together with them. I gave them a call and they're like, oh yeah, well, we have COVID. And I was like, well, stay there.
Are they vaccinated?
See, this is my point. They were vaccinated, but when was the last time they got a booster is questionable. My cousin, the man has sickle cell and the wife has lupus. And so they were very mindful of it because of autoimmune and physical stress. So they were mindful probably a little bit more than others. But to be honest, a lot of us thought, if I finish the first set of vaccines, then I'm good. The problem is that over time, the vaccine obviously decreases the antibodies that you might have developed, even if you were not vaccinated. But if you developed antibodies over time just from exposure or what have you, those tend to wane as well. So it really, if you did not do boosters, now is your time. And in saying that, they should be in drugstores about mid-September. So the advisory group is scheduled with the CDC is scheduled to meet to discuss everything about the vaccine on September 12th. And then the vaccine is released soon after. So you should be looking for this in your regular drugstores or doctor's offices about mid-September.
So Doc, if we got a couple of moments left, so for Black folks in this country, what do we need to do different in preparation, or really, and more importantly, in handling this stage of of COVID-19? You know what I'm saying? Is it to be vaccinated? There was, of course, a huge campaign to get as many Black people vaccinated as possible.
Mhm.
Is it just to have the conversation, education, information, awareness piece? What do we need to do different at this time?
So I would say first and foremost, outside of, like you said, washing your hands and wearing a mask and what have you, look out for our elderly people. Not just that they get vaccinated, but are they up to date with their other vaccinations? Are they up to date with their health care? When I say that it's bad to get COVID, but it's a lot worse if you have comorbidities. And so if you have congestive heart failure, if you have emphysema or COPD and you're not stable, and then you put COVID on top of that, then this is where things start to fall apart. So are the elderly people in our lives up to date as far as their health care? So then when they get the vaccine, and God forbid if they actually end up getting COVID, that their immune system is strong enough as it is.
Did the president reinstate the watchdog groups that monitors these global virus threats? Because I know that after some point, they kind of dismantled the whole COVID team. And I think that was under Trump before Biden even got into office that they started to break that apart. Dr. Fauci was less seen, and the CDC director, Dr. Walensky, she was less seen as well. So does this president, are there some watchdogs, some agencies, some group that's kind of monitoring all of this?
So there's definitely the CDC, first of all, is always alive and well.
Okay.
And
So it's still the CDC.
The CDC is taking care of this. There's also an advisory committee on immunization practices that is also active as far as making sure that we're making the right decisions about these vaccines. I am probably as much of a skeptic as anybody, but there are things that are supposed to be in place to protect us as Americans. How well it works sometimes is questionable, but there is work in place so that we have the best outcome possible. Okay,
that's good. That's good.
I know that you and I have had other conversations about healthcare and Black Americans, just the other day, as far as what are the expectations for us? But as a whole, white America will protect itself. Right?
That's true. That's true.
What they do for themselves, and then see if that does apply to us, because though things might be cut short when it comes to the Black and the poor, including white poor in this country, they will take care of themselves. So I think, let's see what, America's doing as far as this. And if they are protecting themselves, we should protect ourselves as well. We should be getting those vaccinations. We should be aware of what COVID's doing in our communities. And we need to be protective of our elderly people in our community as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Bridget, we know that this thing continues to be a real pain in the ass, for lack of a better word, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to acknowledge it so that way we can be prepared for it. And a lot of us are still in recovery from it, right? I'm not gonna say a lot. I can't quantify that.
People with long COVID.
Right, people with long COVID. So I just want to say, like some of us are still recovering from that, right? Like our bodies have been weakened if you have not been taking care of yourself since you had a COVID. I had COVID twice. Once for 1 week, and then once it was like a day or two. It was like a couple of days. It was different. My body was a little bit healthy and was able to deal with it. But some of us who might be suffering from immune issues, some of us who might be suffering from any type of breathing, respiratory issues, some of us that might be suffering from, not having their bodies not being nutritiously healthy because of the foods that they take in and things like that. They're not getting the proper exercise. And I know we got like 30 seconds left before we take our next pause, but what do they do if we're talking about this? How do they protect themselves? Would you say, look, if you're in those categories, those extreme categories, you might want to actually go back to mask wearing, social distancing. Would you make that recommendation?
100%. And do what you are in agreement with as far as strengthening your immune system. And we can dig further into that. But if your immune system is not prepared, you will not be prepared. I don't care how much you wash your hands.
There it is. There it is. If your immune system is not prepared, you won't be prepared no matter how many times you wash your hands. And you know what, Doc, very quickly, this is I still see, look, I see grown-ass men going to the bathroom and not washing their hands.
They say 50% wash your hands.
Yeah. Say it again, Doc.
50. The majority of people only wash their hands if someone is looking. And so we've definitely, and so with COVID, I think it got a little bit better, but yes, people don't, I don't know what the problem, are you in a hurry? Like, what's the problem? What?
Doc, let me tell you something. I don't know either because, and I got to take this pause, but when do you stop washing your hands? Like, when do you, as a grown-ass adult, when do you say, you know what, I'm going to just use this public bathroom and not wash my hands? Like, I see it all the time. Black and white.
In public bathrooms, I don't care how clean they appear, are never really a good thing. And I am not a germaphobe at all, but I will tell you, I will avoid them at all costs. They are not.
I get that. Look, I understand, but it's still weird to me that you walk into the bathroom. Like, this is stuff we teach children to do each and every time they use the bathroom. And it's like, when children start to identify, like, oh, daddy, that person didn't wash their hands. You know how children, they loud too. They'd be like, hey, dad, that guy never washed his hands.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell is wrong with you, bro? Like, you that, I mean, are we that pressed for time? We can't even take, like, I know some people say it takes 2 minutes to wash your hands thoroughly, you know, but you can't even run that under some water for like 30 seconds.
You know what I think the problem is that I think people misunderstand how you end up contracting. Okay. And so just very quickly, that if you are, you could say, well, my hands are clean. Don't look at going to the bathroom as the opportunity because your hands got dirty while you're in the bathroom. Look at going to the bathroom as that intermittent period during the day that you wash your hands so that you don't get sick. It has nothing to do with peeing. It has nothing to do with going to the bathroom. Look at going to the bathroom as the opportunity to reset your body so you don't get sick.
I can't talk about this no more. I can't talk about this no more. I gotta take a pause anyway, because I'm getting sick just thinking about it. Dr. Bridget, my sister, hey, we truly appreciate you. Y'all, make sure y'all check in Dr. Bridget. She's always on social media talking and sharing and always providing some great insight about health and wellness, from everything from family health to talking about cannabis. She's an author, she's an entrepreneur, she's doing some great things, making her way through the culture to do her part to keep us all healthy. Dr. Bridget, thank you so much for being on the show once again, and more importantly, being so good for the culture. There it is. Beautiful picture. Beautiful picture. There we go. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I got something for you. Stay with us. It's the Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
For decades, the tobacco industry has deliberately targeted Black communities and kids with marketing for menthol cigarettes. It's had a devastating impact on Black health. Tobacco use claims 45,000 Black lives every year. It's the #1 cause of preventable death. In the 1950s, less than 10% of Black smokers used menthol cigarettes. Today, it's 85%. Menthol cools and numbs the throat, making it easier for kids to start smoking. Menthol also increases addiction, making it harder for smokers to quit. Menthol cigarettes are a big reason why Black Americans have a harder time quitting smoking and die at higher rates from smoking-related diseases like cancer, heart disease, and stroke. It's time to stop big tobacco from profiting off Black lives. An FDA ban on menthol cigarettes will improve Black health, save lives, and protect future generations from addiction. Learn more at tobaccofreekids.org/ban menthol.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show for the final piece we want to share with you. First and foremost, you see it there at the bottom where we're streaming at. Black Star Network is blowing up, folks. Big shout out to all of those who are supporting the great movement that we are embarked upon here on Black Star Network, giving you strong Black content that speaks to the issues, speaks to the conversation that Black America is having. And so we want you to make sure that you tell all your family and friends to know about where we're streaming at. BlackStarNetwork.com is our home, but we are streaming in a great number of places. But let me just share this with you as we close out today's show. This was something I thought was very interesting. So we've been talking about the state of Florida for a long time, about all the things that are happening down in Florida. Well, guess what, folks? The state of Florida is actually looking to establish their first Black History Museum. Yep, Governor Florida Ron DeSantis actually signed off on this too. Yeah, this is the governor is reportedly taking steps to establish a museum of Black history in the state. This was kicked off by Democratic State Representative Bruce Anton. He suggested the museum to celebrate Black history. That was back in March of this year. And then according to local news, the State House and Senate of Florida unanimously approved the legislation. And guess what? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis approved it, added his signature to the piece of legislation in May. Well, last week, on August 22nd, the governor named the first 3 task force members who will handle the construction and operation of the facility. According to the GRIO, he revealed his picks as Republican State Representative Bernie Jacques, Altony Lee, who serves as the interim Assistant Vice Chancellor of Public Affairs for the Board of Governors of the State University System, and Brian Butler, Chief Executive Officer of JCB Construction Incorporated. And these 3 individuals will be working on establishing this museum. Representative Jacques said that his main task on this task force is to emphasize that Black history is part of American history. His focus will be to make sure that this is a museum that all can have pride in and come in, and to see the contributions of Black Americans here in the state of Florida. My question is, what's going to be the tone of the content? If you're not teaching the truth in schools, what's going to be in the museum? What's going to be in the museum? That's my question. So if you're going to have a Black History Museum in the state of Florida that's signed off by Governor Ron DeSantis, that's backed by his administration, oh, Lord, I can only imagine what the exhibits are going to be. Huh? Are you going to not talk about certain things? Are you going to include? We will have to see. But this is interesting. This is interesting. A Democrat brought it up. A Republican signed off on it. And now you got to fill in the blanks to see if history is going to truly be told. So that's what's trending right now. Y'all can take that what it is. We'll certainly keep our eyes on it. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you, my online culture crew, for checking in as always, keeping the conversation tight. Folks, make sure y'all do your due diligence. Support us here on Black Star Network. Keenan, show them the screen. There we go. BlackStarNetwork.com, 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 with all the things that are happening in Black America and in America, things that impact Black America and all of America. Make sure you tell your friends and family that their support is necessary. And this is exactly why we need a digital media space like Black Star Network to have the conversations, to bring up these things that are important and of interest to us. So your support of this network helps to fuel the movement as we change the conversation and, most importantly, tell our story. So I want to give a big shout out to all of those who have already donated or gave or just to help to invest. William Fuller, you checked in, Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. Mr. William Fuller, thank you so much for your support. It's truly, truly appreciated. And all of you who have already put something in the pot for us, we're doing our part to make sure we're bringing you the latest in news and information. We're having these conversations and so much more. So your support means everything, as Big Brother William Martin has said time and time again. So go to our website, blackstarnetwork.com, download the app for free, follow us on all social media. And while you're there on social media, make sure you follow me. I would love to connect with you, The Real Farajii. The crew is always sending me something. Janelle, you checked in with me. Brother Danny, you checked in with me. So many of you are checking in with me and saying, Farajii, you hear about this, you hear about that. So much good information. We're trying to figure out how to always put it out there. But I truly, truly appreciate all of you for checking in with us to share it. All right, again, that's my social it's The Real Farajii on Instagram, and Farajii, you can just Google me and let's connect very, very soon. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I want to thank my dynamic production team, Maddie, Chris, Shannon, Joel, and my man King Keenan for making us look and sound so good. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crew, make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all share this. Make sure we make this thing go viral. We've been having some fantastic viewership, some fantastic numbers, but we want to get higher. We want to move forward. We want to let people know that we're having these conversations. If you believe in what we're doing, then show your love and share this episode and all the past episodes. Any episode that really touched you, your support is needed on that front as well. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk on tomorrow. I'm going to bring my folks back from Black Montgomery. They just had their major mayoral election last week, so they elected Mayor Reed again. And so let's talk a little bit more about the implications of that on Black Montgomery in light of all that we saw in that River Dock fight. So we'll continue the conversation there and so much more. So as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for an exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great evening. Peace.